Hello there everybody, how is it going and how have you been? I am EuclideanSqd, and we're back here in Duel Links to cover a brand new roaming duelist, Tyranno Hassleberry. Now, really quick, I just want to mention that there is the DD Tower event going on in the background right now. I will cover the new cards introduced by it, but I am not going to be giving it its own episode just because it is no different from any of the other DD Tower events really, so not much of a point in covering it. Yeah, that's my reasoning and that's what I'm sticking to. But anyway, back to Hassleberry. He is probably one of the most infuriating roaming duelists that Konami has introduced into the game. He has a lot of strong monsters. His deck is quite versatile in what it can do, and consequently he's very, very hard to try and keep pinned down so that you can just farm for maximum points. His deck does have a couple of cards in it that can thwart some of the more common and cheaper farming decks, so there is that as well. That said, it is not impossible to successfully farm him. I have done so myself, and I've done so in fact with a modified version of one of those cheap decks, specifically the Cloudians. Surprise, surprise! As you can see, though, this deck is really different from the Cloudian decks that I have been using. To start with, we only have Acid Cloud and Cirrus Stratus left. These two cards can destroy spell and traps or monsters respectively by removing 2 fog counters from themselves. But more importantly, they cannot be destroyed in battle, and because they are fairy type, combining them with the Sanctuary in the Sky basically gives you an impenetrable barrier that Hassleberry's dinosaurs, although he does have some Tyrannos. Basically, Hassleberry can't ever attack you when you have those 2 cards on the field. Now, like I mentioned, he does have some cards in his deck that can thwart this. However, they are both spell cards. So, what you can do is include a card such as Ultimate Providence, which is a counter trap card that says, when a spell trap or monster effect is activated, you can discard the same type of card to negate that activation and destroy it. So ideally, you'll get one of these pretty early into the duel, and then set it and just have to wait. Then when Hassleberry tries to activate either of those spell cards, hopefully you will have a spare Sanctuary or possibly a Cloudian Squall to discard to counter it. There are in fact some duels where he just never draws it in the first place and you don't ever have to worry. So hopefully we can get a duel like that, but the Ultimate Providence is in there just for safekeeping. There are other cards you can use, such as Magic Jammer, for example. However, Ultimate Providence is one of the cheaper options, even though its activation effects are a little bit more specific. But anyway, moving on, the Cloudian Squall card. This is a continuous spell that says, during each of your standby phases, place 1 fog counter on every face-up monster. These cards are in the deck primarily to recharge Acid Cloud and Cirrus Stratus, so that you can continue to destroy Hassleberry's dinos and his spell and traps pretty much every other turn. This is very important because he does have some very obnoxious dinos that can sit on the field. He has a really, really annoying field spell, and basically just keeping his field as clear as possible will make your life a lot easier when you're trying to farm him. Trust me on that. Other than that, we have the standard golden ladybugs to regain life points, and then Neo-Parshoth as the win condition. The idea being you continually activate the ladybugs to regain life points, and then on the last turn you tribute summon Neo-Parshoth. Parshoth gains the difference in your life points as attack power, and because it can also do piercing battle damage, you just pick any of Hassleberry's monsters and hopefully you will do over 10,000 damage. Neo-Parshoth is a cheaper version of the much more commonly used Winged Dragon of Ra. Again, I am primarily including Neo-Parshoth for that reason, just for anybody who does not have Ra. Now, that said, Parshoth is not particularly easy to get himself. The only way you can get a copy of one is to use a super rare ticket. But there is an alternative, and I will cover that in just a moment. But otherwise, the only other cards in this deck are Planet Pathfinder, which is a not good but usable means of searching out your field spell. and the trap card Good Goblin Housekeeping to help you kind of draw through the top cards of your deck and hopefully find the one or two cards you are missing to really get the combos going. Now, the reason I say Planet Pathfinder is not that great is because while it does let you search for a field spell card, you have to tribute it off the field, which means that Planet Pathfinder will eat your normal summon for that turn, and if you don't have a Cloudian in play to protect you, Hassleberry is going to get some free attacks, which is really not good because a lot of his monsters have some pretty high attack power. Now that said, there is an alternative to Planet Pathfinder, but it is not very budget friendly. The alternative is this thing, Zeratias, Herald of Heaven. Unlike Planet Pathfinder, you don't have to normal summon it and then tribute it. You simply discard it to the graveyard and you add a Sanctuary in the Sky to your hand. Simple enough, but it's not the super rare that makes it annoying. It's the fact that you could only get it through an event that it was last held several months ago. So if you are a newer player, or if you simply missed at that event, you have no means of getting Zeratias right now. So this card is really, really not budget friendly at all, and because I try to show off the cheapest possible decks you can use, kinda not including him, I'm kinda debating switching Planet Pathfinder out for him just to show off the farming strategy, but I think I'll leave it as is. Just because, again, you don't need Zeratias. I have won using Planet Pathfinder before. It's just that Zeratias will make your day so much easier. But, again, it's an event card, so if you don't have it, you're out of luck, and I don't really like showing off event cards, to be completely honest. Or using event cards in farming decks, because not everybody's going to have them. But, anyway, the other big main alternative in this deck is something that is significantly cheaper than Neo-Parshoth, but requires a bit more work to really use. And that is Cloudian... where is he? This guy. Cloudian Nimbus Man. Basically, this Cloudian gains 500 attack for every fog counter that is on the field. That could be on him, that could be on your other monsters, that could be on your opponent's monsters. You just add up all the fog counters in play, multiply by 500, and it gains that much attack. Now, that does mean that with Cloudian Squall, and say 4 face-up monsters on the field, Nimbus Man will be gaining 2,000 attack every single turn. Which means that he can very, very easily pass 10,000 attack points, and you don't really have to worry about that. Whereas with Neo-Parshoth, you have to rely on using the Golden Ladybugs, and if they don't show up until late in the duel, you might not get to enough life points, and so on and so on. However, there are some drawbacks to Nimbus Man. For one, he is also kind of restricted by your other cards. Specifically, if a Cloudian Squall does not show up until later on in the duel, Nimbus Man's attack power isn't going to have as much time to grow. Kind of the same as Neo-Parshoth. The other main difference is that Nimbus Man cannot do piercing battle damage on his own. So, odds are, once this thing starts climbing up past, I'd say maybe 5,000 attack points, if even that late, Hassleberry is going to start putting his monsters into defense position. So, in order to actually take advantage of Nimbus Man's high attack power, you will need some other spell and trap card to use. Something like, say, it's a super rare, but there is Shooting Starbow Seal. It's an equipped spell that will reduce Nimbus Man's attack power by 1,000, but will just let it attack directly. So you could use that. I'm sure there are some cards that could give him the ability to do piercing battle damage, but that leads into the other main downside in that you have to be very, very careful about how you manage your spell and trap card zones. Because if you're not, you could very easily fill them all up and then have no means of doing damage with Nimbus Man to win. So I'm not using Nimbus Man, even though he is technically a cheaper option. But I'm not using him just because I don't really trust my own spell trap card management that well. I just find Neoparshoth to be a little bit easier just because I can keep the ladybugs in my hand the entire game, and I don't have to worry about them, finding space on the field to play them. The good news is that Hassleberry really doesn't have any spell trap destruction at all, so your Sanctuary in the Sky will be safe, and for example, if you are using Nimbus Man and you do have to set its equipped spell card early, it will be safe to just sit on the field for the most part. The downside is that, much like the other Cloudians, Nimbus Man is vulnerable to Hassleberry's counters. So that kind of leads into his other downside in that he has to stay on the field to accumulate a lot of his strength. So if Hassleberry manages to play one of said counters and you don't have an Ultimate Providence set and ready to block it, there goes your win condition. So, it's kind of that balancing act of, do you want a safer but slightly more expensive winning option, or do you want a more complicated but cheaper option? And that I will leave up to you. There are plenty of other decks out there for you to try. Most probably not as cheap as this, admittedly. But, rummage through your card catalog, see what you can scrape together, and hopefully you can farm him successfully. But anyway, that's the deck. Let's go ahead and check out his cards now. So his only normal is this kind of lame little level 3 dinosaur. It's not that great, so we'll just move on. His first rare card is Jurax Spinos, a level 7 fire dinosaur with 2600 attack, 1700 defense. When this card destroys an opponent's monster in battle and sends it to the graveyard, special summon a Spinos token in attack position to your opponent's side of the field. So if you have another dino, you can immediately attack that token and deal a lot of damage. The token does have a small amount of attack points, so it's not like you're getting a free direct attack in. But if your opponent is kind of hiding behind something with a lot of defense power, and Spinos manages to get over it, you can still hurt your opponent a bit. But otherwise, a little bit expensive. Next we have Jurax Protops, a level 4 fire dinosaur, 1700 attack, 1200 defense. This card gains 100 attack for each monster your opponent controls. Simple as that. Next is Black Velocity, a level 4 Earth Dino, 1800 attack and 300 defense. If this card attacks an opponent's monster, it gains 400 attack during the damage step only. If this card is attacked by an opponent's monster, it loses 400 attack during the damage step only. So, versus other monsters, when it attacks, it's effectively a 2200 monster, which is really, really good for a 4-star. The only downside is your opponent can probably just stomp it on their next turn with whatever they summon. So you'll need some kind of spell or trap to help protect Black Velocity, or you're going to lose it. And then lastly we have the level 6 Frostosaurus, a water dinosaur with 2600 attack and 1700 defense. It's just a normal monster, but it has pretty respectable stats for a single tribute. Sure, there's probably some normal monster decks out there that would love to have this thing in it. But we're on to the super rares now. So first off we have Survival of the Fittest. Regular old trap card, but you target any dinosaur type monster you control, equip this card to that target, and it gains 1000 attack points, which is an enormous attack buff for a set of cards that already have pretty respectable attack stats to begin with. More than that, when that attacking monster destroys an opponent's monster in battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can activate this effect and attack a second monster on the same turn. Note, however, that this second attack does have to go at another monster. If the monster equipped with Survival of the Fittest destroys the only thing your opponent controls, you don't get a free direct attack. This card will only let you do a second attack against another monster, so that is a tiny drawback, but honestly this is a really good trap card for any dinosaur deck. Nothing is going to hate a 1000 attack point boost. Let me put it that way. The other trap card is Volcanic Eruption. This is a much simpler card. During your end phase, if you control Jurassic World, just destroy everything on the field. Simple as that. No other cost you have to pay, no delayed effect, nothing. Just if you control Jurassic World, at the end of your turn, activate this trap and wipe the board clean. And that is the downside, is you can only activate it during your end phase. Which means if you don't have anything in play that can help you special summon something to protect you, your opponent gets to take full advantage of that empty board and probably nail a direct attack on you. So just keep that in mind if you want to try out Volcanic Eruption. Have some kind of backup to help you survive the destruction that you wreak. Our next card is Miracle Jurassic Egg, a level 4 Earth Dino with 0 attack and 2000 defense. While face up on the field, this card cannot be banished. Each time a dinosaur-type monster is sent to your graveyard, place 2 counters on this card. You can tribute this card, special summon a dinosaur-type monster from your deck whose level is less than or equal to the number of counters that were on this card. So, effectively, if you have any means of milling your own deck, or if your own dinos just slowly get destroyed through battling, Miracle Jurassic Egg will accumulate counters, and you can eventually trade that in for your big dino if you just can't seem to draw it. Not much more to say. It's got some pretty respectable defense, but just remember that you can only special summon a dinosaur that is in your deck. If you accidentally discard, or if your big dino is lost to your own self-milling effects, Jurassic Egg can't help you get it back. Then lastly, we have the final super rare Black Stego, another level 4 Earth Dino, 1200 attack, 2000 defense. And pretty nice effect, honestly. If this face-up attack position card is targeted for an attack, it just changes to defense position. So, this thing is just, you can just put it in attack mode and you don't really have to worry about your opponent managing to take advantage of its low attack stat, because it'll just put itself in defense mode to protect you. Sorry, I just kind of snorted into the mic there. Yeah, I mean, that's it. That's how it works. And then lastly, as his only ultra rare is Giant Rex, a level 4 Earth Dino, 2000 attack, 1200 defense. It cannot attack directly. However, if this card is banished, you can special summon this card. And if you do, it gains 200 attack for each of your banished dinosaur-type monsters. You can only use the effect of Giant Rex once per turn, so you can't go and banish a whole bunch of them and then special summon them back. Only one will get the power boost. But still, a 2000 attack point 4-star monster is pretty good all around. I mean, it can't attack directly, which is the only downside, but it's not a bad dinosaur. Anyway, because that was the last of his cards, let's go ahead and go into a farming attempt, and hopefully this works. I have had mixed results with this deck, I will be completely honest with you. It works. I know it can work. It just depends on how the first few turns of the duel go. That's not a great opening, admittedly. Do I want to play Cloudian, or do I want to play Pathfinder? I'm trying to go over in my head what he has in his deck. I think this is probably going to bite me. But I think it's okay to just go ahead with Pathfinder and search out a Sanctuary in the Sky. Normally I wouldn't do this, but it's early in the duel, and he did not play a monster in his first turn. Which likely means that he just doesn't have a monster in his hand. So I think I'm okay to do this. There's his field spell. There's his monster. Alright, and his own field spell kind of screwed him over there. Awesome. So we got away with it. And we just drew a Sanctuary in the Sky anyway. Alright. Thank you, deck. Let's go ahead and play an Acid Cloud. And actually, no. I am fine with drawing a Sanctuary in the Sky. Because this thing is now fuel for Ultimate Providence. So we are safe from whatever card from the cards in his deck that can screw with your Euclideans. Now, there are a lot of cards in his deck that can screw with you. First off is this Lost World field spell. All monsters on the field lose 500 attack and defense except for dinosaurs. Once per turn, if a dinosaur type monster is normal or special summoned, you can special summon a Jura Egg token to your opponent's field in defense position. So, if you try to play a dinosaur type monster, his Lost World will stick a token onto your field anyway. What's more annoying is that while you control a token, you cannot target monsters on the field with any card effects except for tokens. Now, this isn't too bad because Hassleberry's AI will typically just immediately attack and destroy the token as soon as it is played. But, say for example, I did not have Sanctuary in the Sky right now, and he were to play a dinosaur and summon a token, he would not go after the token, he would go after Acid Cloud to deal battle damage. So it's not guaranteed he will go after tokens, but more often than not he will go after them if he can. And lastly, once per turn, if a normal monster on the field will be destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can destroy that many dinosaur type monsters in your hand and or deck instead. So effectively, while this field spell is in play, and if it summons a token, you just can't target any of his things. Well, any of his monsters with your card effects. Plus your monsters lose some attack points, so if you don't have something like Sanctuary in the Sky, or if you're just trying to duel him normally, that just makes it even harder to get over his cards. Pardon me just a second. Alright, hold on a second. I can blow my nose in a moment. This is one of his awful, awful cards. This is Earthquake. Change all face-up monsters on the field to defense position. The Euclideans in this deck self-destruct immediately when they're in face-up defense position. This is why you need Ultimate Providence, and this is why I am actually super, super thankful that I drew another Sanctuary in the Sky. Because I can now use my Ultimate Providence, block Earthquake, and we're not out of the woods yet, but we're still doing pretty well. Alright, so here's where I am going to blow my nose just super quick. I'm going to try and... there might be a small cut here just to remove the audio if I can't dampen it enough, but... oh. Okay, that's better. Alright. Oh. Alright, we drew a Golden Ladybug. We're doing really well. Let's go ahead and summon a second Acid Cloud. And we'll go ahead and just get rid of this annoying field spell so that we don't have to worry about it anymore. Now, there's really only one more card in Hassleberry's deck that can screw with the... well, technically, there are two cards in Hassleberry's deck that can still be a threat to this Euclidean farming deck at the moment. Aside from Earthquake, there's another spell card he has called Tail Swipe. I believe he is only allowed to activate it if he has a level... I think it's a level 5 or higher dinosaur type monster. And basically what it lets him do is it lets him pick two of your monsters that are lower than that dinosaur's monster's level, or than that dinosaur's level, and they get returned to your hand. So, in a situation where you have 3 Euclideans, you will be fine, but if you only had 2, and he played Tail Swipe, he could... they wouldn't be destroyed, you could play them next turn, but they would be off the field, and all of his dinosaurs can go for your face. So, it's not a fantastic card. It's not quite as bad as Earthquake, because like I mentioned, they only return to your hand, so you can start playing them again next turn if you manage to survive. But still not a very fun card. Still can very easily diminish the life points that you build up with Golden Ladybug. And that's the other spell card that I would recommend countering with Ultimate Providence, only if it would leave you open to a bunch of direct attacks and your life points are kind of low. Otherwise, if you think you can, if you're pretty sure, I should say, that you can take the damage that he's going to deal out, I would definitely recommend keeping your Ultimate Providence set just in case he tries to use Earthquake later on in the duel, because that thing is so much worse than Tail Swipe. I will go ahead and send Anti-Magic Arrows back. This card you probably don't actually need in the deck. I don't think he really has anything that can stop attacks. I know, for instance, he does have a copy of that Survival of the Fittest, at least one. So it's possible he could use it and give his a dino 1,000 extra attack points and cut you off just shy of hitting 10,000 damage, but I've never seen him do that. I just carry Anti-Magic Arrows around as a good luck charm, mostly just because I don't want the AI to just pull something sneaky on me. But anyway, other than those two spell cards, the only other card that really throws a wrench into this Euclidean farming strategy is actually a monster. And that would be the level 8 Superconductor Tyranno. I'm going to just go ahead and return Planet Pathfinder. Yeah, so Superconductor Tyranno is a light dinosaur, and it has 3,300 attack for one. But that's not the annoying part, because again, if you have Sanctuary in the Sky, you don't have to worry about battle damage. The problem is that once a turn, Superconductor Tyranno can tribute one of his other dinosaurs and deal 1,000 damage to your life points. So he doesn't need to attack if you play Superconductor Tyranno, because he can just keep, you know, blasting dinosaurs at you for 1,000 damage each. Now, if you do have Golden Ladybugs in your hand, you can nullify that damage, but again, that also means you're not then gaining life points to give Neo Parshoth more attack for when you summon it. So, Superconductor Tyranno, it's more annoying than anything, especially once you get your Euclidean lock set up. The other problem is it is being level 8, he can use Tail Swipe while he controls it. So, it's not fun, but it's definitely, excuse me, I definitely say it's, of those three cards, it's the least threatening to your deck. And just because typically he will have to play it by tributing monsters. There are some ways he can get around that, but again, if you have the Sanctuary in the Sky and these Euclideans, you don't have to worry about the battle damage it'll be dealing to you. Let's send back Acid Cloud? Yeah, let's just send back Acid Cloud, that's fine. Yeah, those are the three biggest threats. Other than those, he has annoying things like this Gullosaurus that he can use to, you can just special summon it and then tribute it for something like a Frostosaurus. It could become the second, actually I don't think he can special summon it if he controls a monster, but just want to check something. Oh no, he can. So he could special summon it and then use that as the second tribute for Superconductor. All around, it's honestly just also kind of annoying. I'm going to just go ahead and discard this other Cloudian Squall. I don't really need it. The main reason I have two is to increase the chances of drawing one, and to be more fuel for ultimate... there's Superconductor, in fact. Yeah, it's for more fuel for Ultimate Providence to counter his spells. Let's see, what other annoying cards does he have? He has that... where is it? Where was it? It is this thing, Miscellaneousaurus. Basically, during either player's turn, he can send it from his hand to his graveyard to protect all of his dinosaur-type monsters from your effects for that turn. Additionally, you can also banish it and any number of other dinosaurs from his graveyard to then special summon a dino from his deck with a level equal to the total number of monsters banished, though it does get destroyed during the end phase. But again, that's another special summoning that he can then use to tribute summon for something like Superconductor Tyranno. There's this Soul-Eating Oviraptor that can basically convert the tokens that his field spell would summon into more dinos. He has trap cards like... what is it? Fossil Excavation, I think it's called, that lets him just revive a dinosaur from the graveyard, though with its effects negated. He has all kinds of cards that just really make it hard I'm trying to figure out how to say this. He has a lot of cards that make it difficult to keep his monsters dead. That doesn't really sound like great English, but his dinos don't like to stay in the graveyard, really. They will either banish themselves out to summon something else, or he will find ways of special summoning them back. Again, usually with effects negated, so there is that benefit. But honestly, it looks like we've got a successful farm. Just 2 more turns, and I don't think there's really anything he can do to get free. I'm just going to keep using the Pseudostratuses to take out his monsters. Oh yeah, that is something else annoying. He has Tyranno Infinity. It's only level 4, but its original attack is equal to the number of his banished dinos times 1,000. So, combined with Miscellaneousaurus, it can be quite powerful. So if you're just wanting to duel Hassleberry normally, that's yet another dinosaur to watch out for. In fact, on that note, he actually has something else in his deck that is just as scary as Superconductor Tyranno, and that is something called Ultimate Tyranno. And that is a... has he actually discarded it? No. Okay. Anyway, Ultimate Tyranno is a monster that... let's see how... it's... I think it's a level 8 dino. I think it has either 2,800 or 3,000 attack. It's Superconductor. Yeah, anyway, Ultimate Tyranno really quick. Either 2,800 or 3,000 attack. And I believe its effect says it gets to attack every monster you control once each. And it has to attack before every other monster he controls. So, very strong dino that gets a bunch of attacks every turn and basically clears the way for everything else he plays. It's really not a fun card. This is another reason why I like that I was able to discover a modified version of the Cloudians that can still deal with Hassleberry's nonsense. Because just not having to worry about summoning something, big and scary enough to just make the AI sit and cower for the rest of the duel. It's just really, really nice. I've rambled enough, though. It's the end of the duel. I'm going to go ahead and activate Anti-Magic Arrows to ensure you can't do anything silly. And whoop, fling the field across the board. Can't talk, it's like almost 3. Fling the field, have Neo Parshoth attack, do well over 10,000, and successful farm. So, for as much as I was kind of bad-mouthing cards like, you know, Planet Pathfinder, this is a deck that can work. So, for as frustrating of a roaming duelist as Hassleberry can be, if you are playing on a budget, you can still successfully farm him with mostly rares and normals. Again, if you want to use Nimbus Man, just be aware that you will need to play Cloudian Squalls as quickly as possible, as well as have something in your deck to help him actually use those attack points, because it will have to stay on the field for a long time. And in fact, I would actually recommend making sure that you have Acid Clouds if you want to go the Nimbus Man route, because what you can then do is, towards the end of the duel, if you need to clear space in your back row for your other spells, once you have more than enough fog counters on the field, go ahead and use your Acid Clouds and destroy your own spell and trap cards to make way. So, it's not impossible. There's lots of little variants you can do on this deck depending on what cards you have available, so best of luck in farming Hassleberry. And if that's all you're here for, I hope this deck has inspired you and given you some ideas, and if not, just do some Google searches. There's plenty of other options out there. But, like I mentioned, we're going to take a quick look at the cards available in the DD Tower this time around. So, the normals are nothing really to write home about. We have a level 5 Light Fairy with 1800 attack and 1700 defense, and a 4-star Light Warrior with 1100 attack and 1000 defense. Neither of these cards are really that great. The rares are interesting. First off, we have Light Ray Diabolos, a level 7 Light Dragon, with 2800 attack and 1000 defense. Cannot be normal summoned set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by having 5 or more light monsters with different names in your graveyard. Once per turn, you can banish 1 light monster from your graveyard, target a set card your opponent controls, reveal it, then place that target on either the top or bottom of the deck. So, very interesting dragon, very, very difficult to summon, but so long as you have light monsters in your graveyard to banish, you can start really messing with your opponent's deck. For example, say you reveal a set monster and find out that it's something really weak. You can just keep putting that thing on the top of his deck, or on the top of their deck, and they can't draw any new cards. So you will have effectively kind of locked them in place. Again though, very stringent summoning requirements, probably not going to be played all that often, but interesting card. And in a similar boat is Light Ray Gearfried, a level 8 Light Warrior, 2800 attack, 2200 defense. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by having 5 or more light monsters with different names in your graveyard, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Take note of that, because Diabolos, once you special summon it, you can then do something like revive it from the graveyard. Gearfried cannot. But anyway, once per turn, during either player's turn, when a spell or trap card is activated, you can banish a warrior monster from your graveyard to negate that activation and destroy it. However, all phase-up monsters you control must be warrior type to activate and result this effect. So, Light Ray Gearfried really doesn't get along with anything other than warriors, but it's a very powerful card that can negate spell and traps and has a lot of attack power to boot, so maybe you can build a deck around it, but again, very strict summoning requirements, much like Light Ray Diabolos, so maybe not going to be used that much. And the final rare is Layard the Liberator, a level 4 Light Fairy, 1400 attack and 1500 defense. Add 2 of your removed from play fairy type monsters. Add 2 of your removed from play fairy type monsters to your hand each time a counter trap card is activated. Probably word that sentence a little bit better, but this is basically one of the other fairies in the game that like playing alongside counter trap cards. So things like I think like Bountiful Artemis and Voltanus the Adjudicator, I think is how you pronounce it. Basically, cards that like counter traps and have effects that activate whenever you use counter traps. In terms of super rares, we have Lightning Blade, an equip spell that can only be used on warrior monsters. They gain 800 attack, and all water monsters lose 500 attack. So, probably not going to be using that secondary effect all that often, but it's a nice power boost for any warrior. Works really well in any warrior decks. And in fact, this isn't actually the first time you could get Lightning Blade. I believe prior to this event, it was in a couple of the lotteries from things like the Duelist Chronicles events, I'm pretty sure. It's interesting that you can also get it here. Nice little equip spell. Next we have Diana the Light Spirit, a level 4 Light Thunder with 1700 attack and 1000 defense. She cannot be normal summoned or set, and instead must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing a light monster from your graveyard. Once per turn, during your opponent's end phase, you gain 1000 life points. So, decent attack for a level 4. There are some cards in the game that like working with thunder monsters. There are plenty of cards in the game that like working with light monsters. And gaining 1000 life points at the end of your opponent's turn is pretty good, but just be aware that they will likely start targeting Diana specifically for that reason. And if you're not able to protect her, it's possible that you will lose this card before you can even gain a single life point from it. So keep that in mind when you play it if you want to use it. And then lastly, probably the coolest card out of all of these, to be honest, is Vylon Tetra. This is a level 2 light machine tuner with 900 attack and defense. If this card is sent from the monster card zone to the graveyard, you can pay 500 life points to target one face-up monster you control, equip this card to that target, and if the equipped monster would be destroyed, you can destroy this equipped card instead. Now what's really cool about him is he will protect the equipped monster from being destroyed by a card effect or in battle, and it only needs to be sent from the monster card zone. So it doesn't have to be destroyed, and in fact I'm pretty sure that because the way that this card is worded, that includes if it is sent to the graveyard as part of a synchro summon. So you can effectively use this as your tuner monster, summon a big scary synchro, pay a few life points, equip that synchro with Tetra, and it gets one get out of jail free card if it would ever be destroyed. So, very, very cool tuner monster. Sorry about that, I'm having to breathe for a moment because I've been talking for so long. I'd say out of all the cards presented by this event, this one is definitely my favorite. It's going to get a lot of love in synchro decks, I bet. And then aside from this, in the DD box you can also get a random super or ultra rare from any of the original series, GX, or 5D's characters, as well as a random card from the previous DD Tower, the Dark Dimension. Note that I'm pretty sure that this card could be a super rare, or it could be a rare, or possibly a normal if you're really unlucky, I think. But if you missed out on a couple of cards from the previous Tower event, you might be able to scrape together a couple by playing in this event. And then lastly, the final card in this event is this guy, Lightning Warrior. This is a level 7 Light Warrior Synchro, 2400 attack and 1200 defense. Will accept any tuner and any non-tuners, so incredibly versatile. And if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you deal 300 damage to your opponent for each card in their hand. So, nice little bit of burn damage alongside any battle damage it might do. Attack is a little bit low for a level 7, but it is a warrior, so it will take advantage of any sort of cards in this game that help warriors, of which there are a lot. Lightning Blade, for example, will make this thing a 3200 attack point monster. There's skills like Joey's Fields of the Warriors that plays the field spell that gives it, I think, like 300 points. There's other equip spells, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. And because I kind of want to show this off, well, first off, you can get a copy of Lightning Warrior when you complete floor 30, 40, and 50. So if you want all 3 copies, you will have to climb all the way to the top of the tower, but if you only really want the one, or if all you can really manage is the one, definitely go for floor 30. Otherwise, when you complete floor 41, you will get these card sleeves. On completing floor 45, you'll get this game mat. You might have to rotate your heads a little bit to make it right side up. Then, if you complete 30% and 60% of the missions in this tower, you get these cool sort of Gradius themed card sleeves and game mats, which I think are really neat looking. Kind of a neat throwback, and what's more is Gradius is actually one of the NPC monsters you can duel in this tower, and all of its lines reference the old Gradius games, like why are there Moa statues in space, and all kinds of other fun little in-jokes among for people who have played Gradius and are big fans of that. So really fun little bit of humor in the event, I guess, but otherwise that's all the cards and all the cool unique stuff that are available in this version of the tower. So with that, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all had a great time, and I hope you all have a great day. And I will see you all next time.